Welcome to my channel. Justine Waters answered her cell when it vibrated. It was a text from her husband Tom, who had been away for the last few days on a business trip. She unlocked her phone to read the message. "The business here is finished," it declared. "I'm heading home now. A table for dinner has been booked for 7 p.m. at the restaurant. See you there. Happy anniversary." The text lacked warm words or tender emojis, but this hardly surprised her. Tom had seemed aloof of late. "See you," Justine replied. "Happy anniversary." "I love you," she sent her response and set the phone down on the nightstand, hoping for any reply. Anything would be welcome, but none came. Justine glanced at the clock and realized she had just enough time to prepare for their meeting. With a sigh, she rose from bed and made her way to the bathroom to shower before meeting him. "Who was that?" inquired Jay Carter, the man with whom she had just spent the past several hours. "My husband," Justine answered. "He let me know he's returning. He's already booked a table for us tonight. It's our 5th anniversary." "Your 5th anniversary?" Jake remarked. "I thought you said he went back east." "Yes, he was there," Justine responded. "It seems he wrapped up everything sooner than anticipated. I need to call my mom to ask if she can watch little Jacob a bit longer." "All right then, come back to bed," Jake suggested with a cunning grin. "Maybe we can give Tom a little present." Justine dismissed the idea with a laugh. "I'd love to, Jake, but I really need to get ready, and time is tight," she explained. Luckily, she had some clean garments here to wear. "I can't meet my husband in the clothes I wore here. They're crumpled and dirty." "Do you think he suspects anything?" Justine shook her head. "No, I don't believe so. Lately, he's been preoccupied with something. It consumes nearly all his attention. He scarcely speaks to me and hardly ever interacts with the baby. It's as if he's in another world." "How long do you plan on keeping him in the dark?" Jake queried. Justine shrugged. "Hard to say. He's a reliable provider, and I'm sure he'd be an excellent father if he chose to be." "Do you think he knows that little Jacob isn't his?" "If he does, he hasn't mentioned it. I can't picture him letting that pass without saying something," she responded. "Well, I'll be here if you need anything," Jake stated. Justine smiled at him, her gaze dropping to his lean form, now resting on his right leg. "Just keep it warm for me." "Okay," she teased with a mischievous smile. "You got it, babe," he replied, mirroring her smile. Justine walked to the wardrobe and selected a clean dress. She was amazed at how much of her clothing was in this closet, rather than the one she shared with her husband. Eyeing the dress she had picked, she tried to recall if Tom had seen it before. It was blue, ending about 7 cm above her knees with a deep, enticing neckline. She was fairly sure Tom had seen it before. If not, she would simply tell him she had just bought it. After phoning her mother, Justine headed to the bathroom for a soothing hot shower, aiming to erase all signs of Jake before seeing Tom. She had vowed, when she started her affair with Jake 16 months ago, to never dishonor her husband by giving him anything less than her undivided attention or allowing him to touch her while she still bore traces of Jake. Initially, Jake understood, but ever since little Jacob was born just over 3 months ago, he had begun urging her to let Tom wash her. Justine told him it was indecent and crude and refused to dishonor her husband in such a manner. It was bad enough that she was involved with Jake, and even worse that she had birthed Jake's child. But that was a line she would never cross. After her shower, Justine combed her long, dark hair until it was perfect, got dressed, and applied her makeup. Assured that she looked and smelled presentable enough to withstand Tom's examination, she kissed Jake goodbye for the night. "See you tomorrow at the office?" he asked, eyeing her from head to toe. "Of course, darling, but tonight duty calls." She picked up her handbag and casually exited the room. Tom Waters inhaled from his cigarette while seated in his Escalade, parked opposite the restaurant. He had just gotten an update from one of his private investigators, who informed him that Justine had departed the upscale condo owned by Jay Carter, her lover, for almost 18 months. He looked at a photograph sent by the detective of her in a blue dress. It wasn't the outfit she had worn to Carter's apartment, and Tom had certainly never seen it before. He wasn't shocked. Justine was correct about one aspect. Tom had been back east, but he had come back a day early after being urgently informed of a severe breach in his security system that needed immediate resolution, or else a secretive federal agency would intervene. Tom remembered feeling anxious while in the office of the man known only as Alpha One, a figure so secretive that only a few knew his actual name, Tom not being one of them. "You have a serious problem," Waters the man had stated, his movements reminiscent of the actor once cast as Moses. "And when you have a problem, it becomes our problem. Resolve this quietly, or I will." "Yes," Sir Tom had responded, understanding that it was the only response Alpha One would accept. He also knew that Alpha One wouldn't hesitate to make people vanish. He had heard stories of how Alpha One had once obliterated an entire beachside estate, including all inside. It was a chilling thought. Justine believed Tom was merely a well-known traveling salesman who journeyed across the country, selling his security products to various firms looking to enhance their security protocols. However, Tom's role extended far beyond that of a mere salesman. Indeed, he sold security systems and managed their installation, but these devices were fitted with specialized circuits that allowed Alpha One's team to monitor nearly all aspects of these companies' operations, from their client interactions to their financial dealings. Tom was aware that the problem Alpha One referred to was his wife of 5 years, as of today. For about the last 18 months, she had been engaged in a fervent affair with Jay Carter, a senior partner at the law firm where she was employed as a paralegal. Tom hadn't grasped all the specifics initially, mainly due to his extensive travel for work, but he had sensed that something was amiss between them for a while. By the time he became privy to the affair's details, Justine had already announced her pregnancy. A lawyer Tom consulted had informed him that no judge in the state would even entertain a divorce proceeding while Justine was pregnant. If the child turned out to be his, he would be financially responsible for child support, regardless of their prenuptial agreement. The only consolation was the house, which he had owned prior to their marriage. Tom gritted his teeth and maintained his silence throughout the entire pregnancy, managing to keep his emotions in check even when she named the boy Jacob, after his biological father. Shortly after the child was born, Tom had a DNA test done. The results, confirming the child wasn't his, didn't surprise him. Checking his watch, Tom noted that Justine would be arriving soon. He observed a man in a khaki jacket standing by the restaurant entrance with a woman clutching a briefcase. Knowing they were there for him, he crossed the street and parked. Carrying his ever-present briefcase, he walked towards the entrance, nodding subtly to the two individuals at the door. Tom quietly conversed with the woman at the entrance and was soon seated in a corner booth. The man in khaki and the woman took seats in another booth within earshot. Tom thanked the server for the water and started looking over the menu. He noticed Justine's entrance and set the menu aside. Standing up as she slid into the booth across from him, he greeted her, "Good evening," Justine, in a neutral voice. "You look very nice tonight." "Thank you, Tom," she replied with a smile. "I don't remember seeing that dress before. Is it new?" Yes, I just bought it." "Do you like it?" "Yes, it really highlights your eyes," he remarked with a small smile. After they ordered, they heard music playing from another part of the establishment. The venue was more than just a dining place, it also featured a dance floor and a cocktail bar. "It sounds like they're playing our song," Justine mentioned. Tom understood this as her hint that she wanted to dance. What the heck, he thought. It's our anniversary, even if it might be our last. "Care to dance?" he asked, standing up. "I don't mind," Justine said, extending her hand. Tom took her hand and guided her to the dance floor. They moved together, yet Justine noticed that Tom maintained a slight gap between them, as if he struggled to touch her. When the song ended, Tom led her back to their booth just as their meal arrived, and they started to eat. "Is something wrong?" Justine inquired. "You seem so distant." "It's our anniversary." "Yes, it is," Tom replied. "The thing is, your dress smells like it's been hanging in Jake Carter's closet for quite some time, and no matter how hard you tried, you didn't manage to completely remove his scent from your body." "What?" Justine asked, taken aback by Tom's tone. "Jay Carter? Are you serious?" she asked, attempting to deflect. "Yes, you know Jay Carter, one of the senior partners at the law firm where you work," Tom said casually. "Of course I know him," Justine replied with a touch of sarcasm. "I certainly hope so," Tom remarked. "After all, you've spent enough time in his bed, plus he's the biological father of little Jacob." "What are you saying? This is absurd." "I won't sit here and let you speak to me like that," she protested. "Oh, you will sit," Tom said, opening his briefcase. "You'll sit and listen to every bit of information I decide to share with you, especially after what you've been up to for the past 16 months. "I don't understand what you're talking about," she feigned ignorance. Let's start with this, he said, tossing a document in front of her. What is this? This is the DNA test result for your child. According to this, Jacob isn't my son. The next page is another DNA test that confirms the donor is none other than your lover, Jake Carter, the man you named Jacob after. How could you have obtained Jake's DNA, she asked, confused. That was easy. You brought him home with you at least 3 nights a week. But that's not all, he said, pulling out a thick folder and dropping it on the table. What is this? A copy of every email, text, and electronic message between you and Jake over the last 16 months. I hate to break it to you, but there's really no such thing as privacy on the internet. All right, I admit it, she said. Jake and I were intimate once, but that was it. It was just sex. It meant nothing. Absolutely nothing. Is that so? Please turn to page 75 and scroll down about halfway until you find the passage I highlighted. Tell me what you see. She flipped through the pages until she found the one Tom mentioned. Her face blanched as she read her own words to Jake. I'm waiting. I'm reading it, she said quietly. Out loud. I want to hear you say the words you wrote to him. She swallowed and glanced at the page again. Please, she implored, don't make me do this. Either you read it, or I will, and if I do, I won't mind who overhears, he countered. Tears flowed down her cheeks as Justine looked back at the paper and started to recite the words Tom had marked. I adore what you do to me, Jake. I've never felt as content as I have in the past 16 months. I eagerly await the chance for you to get me pregnant again. I prefer your build to Tom's. And I can't wait until the next time you can fill me up, she read aloud. In all our years together, I don't remember you ever speaking to me like that, Tom remarked. Is that all you have, she asked, her voice shaky. No, I have photos, audio, and video, hours and hours of footage. You must really despise me, Justine stated quietly. Yes, I do, he replied bluntly, her shock evident as if his words were a physical blow. There was a time when I would have taken a bullet for you. How long have you known? I had suspicions even before you announced your pregnancy. I investigated a bit and collected some proof, enough to satisfy the prenuptial agreement. However, by the time I discussed it with the lawyer, you had already told me about your pregnancy. The lawyer was clear that no judge would consider a divorce until after you gave birth, child support and all. But now that Jacob is born, I have ample evidence to proceed, Tom explained. He motioned toward the 2 people at the nearby table who stood and approached. This gentleman has something for you, Miss Justine Waters, the man inquired. Yes, Justine responded softly. The man set a heavy envelope before her. You've been served, Justine questioned, tears flowing once more. Yes, Tom confirmed, handing her a pen. These are the divorce papers. Look at them, they are exactly what we agreed upon in the prenuptial contract. Sign them now, and I'll provide you with a cashier's check for $2. $394, the exact sum you had when we married. Don't ask for more. I know about your secret emergency fund. You can keep that. All your belongings have been sent to your mother's home. Yes, she's aware and very disappointed. But she's agreed to let you stay with her until you find a place for yourself and the boy not for you. But I don't want a divorce, Justine protested. I love you. Please, Justine, don't insult my intelligence, he retorted. He pulled out his phone and played a recording of her conversation with Jake from earlier that day. Her eyes widened as she heard her own voice emanating from Tom's phone. How did you get that, she queried. Well, I'd tell you, but then I'd really have to act on my threats. As much as I despise you right now, it wouldn't be right to deprive little Jacob of his mother, Tom said, his smile devoid of any warmth. To you, I was merely a financial provider and a caretaker while the child's father reaped all the benefits. Just so you know, your free ride is over, at least from me. And what about Jake, she inquired, suddenly concerned. Ah, worried about the father, are you? Fortunately, we live in a state that permits alienation of affection lawsuits. He's being served as we speak. It may lead to something, or it may not, but the principle is what counts. In any case, his troubles are just beginning. You see, today I spoke with Hamilton Parker, your managing partner. I showed him my evidence and expressed how displeased I was to learn that one of his senior partners was involved with a subordinate, my wife. For now. Mr. Parker was quite disturbed and concerned that Mr. Carter's actions could bring unwanted scrutiny to his firm and potentially a financial strain. He agreed that it would be best if Mr. Carter were no longer associated with the firm and assured me that he would discuss this with his board of directors. This evening, he also concurred that it would be unfair to penalize you, especially given that you are a mother with a newborn child. After all, Mr. Carter was essentially your superior, and he didn't want to risk exposing the firm to a potential sexual harassment lawsuit considering your tenure there. He agreed it would be wise to retain you for now, but let me assure you, Mr. Carter's troubles are only starting, Tom explained. How well do you really know your lover? I mean, do you truly understand who he is? What are you implying? Justine inquired. I'm referring to his clients, the people he conducts business with. I mean, do you really know who he represents and what he's involved in when he's not pressing you into his bed? Tom probed. I don't know. He never discusses those matters with me, she admitted. That's probably for the best. Let's just say you're Mr. Carter associates with some very intriguing clients, the sort that attracts the attention of certain federal agencies that can make someone vanish without a trace. Do you comprehend what I'm hinting at? You ought to be frightened, he stated. You're scaring me, Tom. And you should be scared, he affirmed. Are you frightened enough to stay away from Jay Carter? Because he's going down, and if you're anywhere near him when that happens, you'll be pulled down too. Who are you, really? She asked, puzzled. He smiled, gesturing towards the papers before her. Sign the documents, Justine, and end this sham immediately. I've probably already disclosed too much. By the way, your credit card has been canceled, and your house key no longer works. I changed the locks today while you were with Jake. I've also secured the bank account, so you can no longer access it. Considering you've been diverting half your earnings into your secret account, this shouldn't impact you much. You knew everything, didn't you? She asked, resigned. Tom shrugged. Justine perused the divorce papers and saw they were exactly as Tom had described. She signed the papers and returned the pen to Tom. He smiled, checked the documents, and the process server who had witnessed the signatures, along with the woman accompanying him, notarized the signed documents. Tom handed the papers back to the man. I'll make sure these get to your lawyer, Mr. Waters, the man said. Thank you, Tom replied. After they departed, Tom turned back to Justine. I think you should hand over your rings, he stated. Do I have to? I love these rings, she protested. Clearly not enough to avoid Jay Carter's bed, he retorted. With tears in her eyes, Justine removed the rings and placed them on the table. He pocketed them before addressing her again. I believe our business here is concluded. Is that all you have to say? What else is there to say? Tom questioned. Why did you do this on our anniversary? She asked, her tears flowing. Do you realize how humiliating this has been for me? To discover that you've been deceiving me all this time, and to learn that Jacob isn't my son, and how it felt when I found out you were with Carter on our anniversary. Don't you dare try to guilt-trip me, Tom stated firmly. We're done. We are completely done. Goodbye, Justine. I never want to see your face again. With those words, he returned to his meal, ignoring Justine as she wiped her face. The waitress approached and inquired if everything was okay. Yes, the meal is excellent, as always, Tom said nonchalantly. I'll settle the bill, and I believe the lady will take her meal to go, please. Yes, sir, the waitress responded, leaving to fetch a takeout box for Justine. She returned shortly afterward and packed Justine's leftovers into a styrofoam container. Tom paid for the meal with his credit card while Justine gathered her belongings. And that's it, Justine looked at Tom. That's it, Tom confirmed, dismissing her with a wave. She couldn't believe he had just dismissed her so casually. I'm sorry, Tom, she murmured. He looked up from his meal before replying, well, that's something we can both agree on, he said. Now, have a good day. Say hello to your mother for me. Oh, and happy anniversary, he added with a slight smile. Justine, unable to comprehend the calm manner in which her husband had just effectively tossed her out like trash, ran from the table, sobbing. Tom smiled and returned to his meal. He noticed a few patrons glaring at him with disdain, but he simply smiled back and shrugged. On the outside, he appeared calm and composed, but inside he was emotionally shattered 5 years down the drain. At least the worst was behind him now. Tom managed to get through the next few days without incident. It wasn't easy. He had once truly loved Justine, and it pained him to have to treat her this way. However, he decided it was better to do this than to lash out at her in the way he had wanted to. Then came the day when he heard a knock at his front door. He was in his master bedroom upstairs and looked out the window to see Carter's sports car in the driveway. He had a feeling something like this would happen, so he had made some enhancements to his home security system at the insistence of Alpha 1. He went downstairs and opened the door. Sure enough, it was Jay Carter, and he was furious. Tom stepped back as Carter barged inside. "You son of a. You cost me my job, and Justine doesn't even want to talk to me. I'm going to kill you, you piece of," Jake yelled, his face red with anger. He advanced on Tom until he noticed 15 tiny red dots suddenly appearing on his shirt. "Alert intrusion," blared an electronic voice from speakers embedded in the walls. "Do not move." "What the hell is this?" screamed the uninvited guest. He raised his hands as if trying to brush off the dots. Suddenly, there was a sharp sound like a shot from a pneumatic rifle. When Jake looked down, he saw 15 darts sticking out of his body. He tried to reach up, but he never made it. His eyes rolled back, and his body collapsed to the floor. "I don't think you'll be killing anyone today," Carter Tom said calmly, grabbing his phone. He pressed an icon on the phone and heard a male voice. "Operator 1211, clean up in aisle 15, Tom said. "Clean up in aisle 15. Understood," the man replied. Tom pressed another icon, and the systems that had just fired a load of tranquilizer darts into Jake retracted back into the ceiling. Once the panels closed, there was no indication that anything had been there. Tom smiled, satisfied that the new security system had worked as promised. A few minutes later, an unmarked white van pulled into the driveway. Several men in Tyvek suits entered the house and dragged Jake's limp body out. One of them grabbed Jake's keys and got into the sports car. Within minutes, the van and Jake's sports car were gone. Tom closed the door and went about his business. A few days later, after Tom had bought a caramel mocha at the local coffee shop, a large man in a dark suit and sunglasses stopped him on the street. "Alpha 1 wants to talk to you, Mr. Waters," the man growled. "Right now." "All right," Tom said, a bit taken aback by the man's demeanor. He followed the man to a long black limousine parked at the curb and got inside. After the man opened the back door, Alpha 1 greeted him. "Waters, good to see you're still free," after the door closed. Yes, sir. I've been keeping busy," Tom replied. Alpha 1 smiled and placed a friendly hand on Tom's shoulder. "Please, Tom, when it's just the two of us, you can call me Regis," said the one-eyed man. "I wanted to give you an update on Mr. Carter. He's singing like a canary." "Thank you, Alpha, Regis. So he's telling us everything we need to know?" Tom asked. "Oh yes, he's doing it full throttle," Regis said. "But right now, he's literally singing like a canary. It seems the combination of those tranquilizer darts from your new security system and the serum we used to extract the information we needed has turned his brain to mush. Right now he's swinging in a metal cage and chirping like a bird." "Oh," Tom said. Regis pulled an envelope from his jacket pocket and handed it to Tom. "We managed to get him to settle with you out of court before he became too incompetent to sign his name," Regis said. "He was so grateful to be alive that he agreed to much more than you originally wanted." "Well, that's good to hear," Tom said. "By the way, I want you to know I'm really impressed with your new system," Regis added. "Now that we've gotten what we needed from Carter, I'm glad you didn't use the 50 caliber chain guns I suggested." "So am I," Tom said. "I just had my carpet cleaned." Regis chuckled at that. "Have you heard anything about Justine?" Tom asked. "Yes, she's back at work, though Mr. Parker is keeping her on a very short leash," Regis replied. "Did you ever mention to her who you actually work for?" Regis asked. "No, Regis, I never did," Tom answered. Regis nodded. He already knew this from his monitoring devices, but wanted to hear it from Tom personally. "Good," Regis said. "Well, when your divorce is finalized, I'd like you to come to headquarters. I'd like to introduce you to your new partner." "Partner?" Tom asked. "I've never needed a partner before." "Well, there's a first time for everything, isn't there, Tom?" Yes, sir, I suppose there is," Tom said. "Good," Regis said. "Then I look forward to seeing you." "So do I," Regis Tom replied. The door opened, signaling the end of the meeting. Tom stepped out of the limousine and watched as the large man squeezed into the driver's seat. As the long car merged into traffic, Tom wondered what Regis had in store for him. Thank you for listening until the end. See you in the next episode of Cheating Stories. Take care of yourself and your loved ones. Goodbye.